Thank you, everybody. Just thank you for joining us today for this ATS webinar called Funding Advice for Early Career Investigators. It's within the Thoracic Oncology Assembly, but really it's just to anybody who's interested. So with all the recent uncertainty unfolding in the scientific and research landscape, it's understatement of the century, it is even more critical to support early career researchers and physician scientists as we navigate the beginning of all of our academic journeys. So we have an outstanding panel of physician scientists with us today, a brain trust, if you will, to lend us advice accrued from their own successful careers. I'm Jeremy Mudd, a pulmonologist, assistant professor at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York. My research focuses on treatment and prevention of early stage lung cancer in elderly patients with chronic lung disease. And I'll hand it over now to Lawrence to introduce himself, and we'll introduce our panelists as well.
Yeah, my name is Lawrence Benjamin. I'm a pulmonologist by training as well, out of UCLA and the Greater Los Angeles VA. My research is primarily focused on implementation strategies around lung cancer screening. I'm excited for our discussions this morning.
Awesome. So I guess I can start off by introducing Juan, who I know very well. So he is a pulmonologist, a health services researcher, professor of medicine at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, where he also serves as the chief of the Division of General and Internal Medicine. And as my mentor, his most important role, his research focuses on lung cancer epidemiology, outcomes, disparities in care, as well as the development of evidence-based approaches to lung cancer screening and management using large-scale databases. He's led numerous NIH-funded studies and contributed to landmark clinical guidelines through work examining risk prediction, treatment patterns, and inequities in lung cancer care, among many other functions. And also has a pretty big research portfolio in COPD and asthma treatment as well.
Thank you for our generous introduction. I'm glad to be here.
And Lawrence, want to introduce some other folks?
Yeah, our second discussant today is Dr. Michael Gould, who is a pulmonologist and health services researcher at Kaiser Permanente, Southern California, and professor of health system science at Kaiser Permanente, Bernard Tyson School of Medicine. His research focuses on lung cancer screening, pulmonary nodule evaluation, and implementation science within learning health systems, with an emphasis on improving quality, safety, and outcomes in respiratory care. He's led multiple large pragmatic studies and published extensively on lung cancer screening and care delivery, receiving funding both from the National Cancer Institute and the VA, and from PCORI. And our final panelist is Dr. Nichole Tanner, who's a pulmonologist and clinician scientist at the Medical University of Southern California and the Ralph Johnson VA healthcare system.
South Carolina, I believe, right?
Yeah. As much as I would love to be in California,
Sorry.
We're here in the great state of South Carolina.
We're in a SoCal state of mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much sorry, that's the SoCal state of
You're
South
totally
Carolina. Other coast.
Yeah.
Dr. Tanner leads lung cancer screening programs and implementation efforts. Her research spans the lung cancer continuum with a focus on screening uptake, disparities, pulmonary nodule evaluation, early detection, including biomarker development and novel screening strategies. She's helped expand lung cancer screening across multiple healthcare systems and led efforts in advancing equitable access across multi-level interventions and large-scale clinical trials. She's PI'd multiple studies with support both from government and industry-sponsored sources. And so our hope today was really to have an open discussion. We have some prepared questions across a few different areas of kind of broad topics, from broad framing and strategy around seeking funding to speaking specifically about government funding sources, foundational funding sources, industry-sponsored funding sources, and then we'll wrap up with just discussions around grantsmanship, career development, and a broad summary. But I have the honor of asking the first question, and I'll put this one out to maybe Dr. Juan, how do you pronounce your last name? Wisnivesky?
Just please call me Juan.
Juan.
Makes the flow easier.
Perfect. Juan, maybe you can open this up and then we'll turn to our other panelists as well. Just from a broad standpoint, when advising early career investigators, how do you recommend prioritizing among various funding mechanisms early in the career, whether it's from K awards, R awards, foundation grants, or industry partnership?
Well, good question. Where to start from? I think it will depend a little bit in what stage of early career somebody is, because there are some minimal requirements that you really have to have already accomplished to be eligible for certain grants, I guess in particular case. But I would say in general, I think the basis for early career for a while now, at least in the US, has been, the K mechanism, which is not perfect. And I've seen people saying, try other ways. And, people sometimes say you should start, be strong, start with an R. But I think it's already enough of a barrier to get your K, and it's a really strong path for having protected time, several years to accomplish, the things that you need to do in the early stage of your career. So I would say that probably that's the basis. Now, there's a lot of other path to, early independence, and those are worth exploring. There's slew of small foundation grants, and as well as other related mechanisms, like if you're doing cancer research, ACS or Department of Defense, et cetera, and I think it's worth to keep all those in mind. And as you write in your case, think what strategically you can use some of the same projects for these other mechanisms. But maybe I stop here, and I'm curious to hear what Nichole and Michael had to say about it.
Well, since you said my name first, I'll go first. I agree with everything that Juan said. Honestly, I think some of the best advice I could give is to put lots of lines in the water, right? So you're trying to catch a fish and you have to put a lot out there. And so my personal experience was, repurposing the same idea, but sending it off to different funding agencies. And I was not successful in getting a K, but was able to get a ACS, Career Development Award, which, kind of had the same funding mechanism and protected time. And so I think being able to do that, and you just have to be very resilient, especially with the way things are now. I think they're probably much harder. There's also the VA grant mechanisms. And so many of, hopefully the folks listening now or later will have an academic affiliate with the VA. I feel like it's maybe a little known secret unless you've got a huge VA in your corner. But they have a series of CDAs, starting with the CDA1, which they got rid of for a little while, and I believe is brought back, and then a CDA2, and you can kind of creep your way up that way. And I think for those that are interested in health services research, it's actually a really great mechanism because of the large data that is available across VA. So I would consider doing that. I also think about maybe, while you're trying to get your career development award, considering putting applications in for some small foundation grants where you can, maybe generate some pilot data. So I think the ATS has some small grants, as does the Chest Foundation. I think the first grant I ever got was a 2-year, $50,000 per year from the Chest Foundation. That gave me a lot of really great pilot data as I was applying for the CDA. So I think you have to kind of be strategic, and just more fishing poles in the water would be my advice. And I don't know if I've left much more for you to say, Michael, but please.
So there's no such thing as bad funding. And Ks are super competitive, so you need to do everything possible to maximize your chances for success in a K. And the typical formulation is the man, the fan, and the plan. So you need a good idea, you need a strong mentor, and then you need to distinguish yourself. And an important way to do that is to have some evidence of a track record in getting smaller awards. You just want to position yourself for the next thing. So when we're saying K, I think just to underline this point, We're talking about a CDA, a Career Development Award from any source. So whether it's a K from NIH or a VA CDA, or for this audience, American Cancer Society has a career development mechanism, and then and I didn't know ATS had one, or that you were supported by that, Nichole. So that's
No,
great.
mine was through ACS. ATS just has
Oh,
them, I think, pilot
ACS,
grants. ACS,
ACS.
yeah, American
Yeah.
Cancer Society, yeah.
Okay. No, yeah. So
Yeah,
we can move
one
on
thing
then.
that we didn't, sorry,
Go ahead.
I was going to say one source of funding that we didn't mention, yeah, and following Mike's correct statement that all funding is funding, particularly in the current stage of things, is industry. Now, I think industry is tricky and can work in different ways. I think in general, they are more used to fund more senior investigators, but could be an opportunity for a junior person to team up with a senior person and send a project. And I think it's a slightly different a process. It's not easy either, but sometimes a little more accessible than NIH funding or other kind of foundation funding. And so that could open opportunity to, again, do some data collection, get some preliminary data, or even do an interesting project that can lead to something else. So I would not totally discount it. As you say, right now, all the sources are valid.
I think that's a good transition. Maybe we could actually talk about industry-sponsored research a little bit, because I'm sure we'll get back to government and more foundational stuff as well. But just on the topic, what opportunities and risks should early career investigators consider if they are engaging with industry-sponsored research, and how do you kind of make it work with your more traditional avenues that you're applying for?